In 1957, a man named James Vickery walked into a movie theater in New Jersey and did something that would quietly change the world forever. He spliced two messages into a film reel, each one lasting just 1/3000th of a second, too fast for the human eye to consciously register, too fast for the brain to defend against. The messages were simple: drink Coca-Cola, eat popcorn. Popcorn sales jumped 57.8%. Coca-Cola sales jumped 18.1%. The audience never saw a single advertisement. They never felt persuaded. They never made a conscious decision. They simply wanted something, and they had absolutely no idea why. That experiment was called subliminal advertising, and the moment it was exposed, governments banned it. Corporations were told they could never use psychological manipulation on consumers again, and that should have been the end of it. Except it wasn't. Visual, slow pullback from the courtroom to reveal it was on a tiny screen, inside a massive boardroom, men in expensive suits watching it calmly, nobody panicking. One of them slowly smiles. Because what the governments banned in the theater, corporations simply moved into the laboratory. They took that same science of psychological manipulation, handed it to neuroscientists, behavioral economists, and data analysts, gave them unlimited budgets, and told them one thing: go deeper. And here is where the story gets personal. Right now, at this exact moment, you are carrying a device in your pocket that knows more about your psychological weaknesses than your closest friend does. It knows when you feel lonely. It knows when you feel insecure. It knows the exact moment your willpower is lowest. And that is precisely when it shows you something to buy. This isn't paranoia. This is a documented, patented billion-dollar science, and the people who built it, Bezos, Zuckerberg, the Walton family, the boardrooms of every major bank and luxury brand on Earth, they didn't stumble into this accidentally. They funded the research, they hired the psychologists, they ran the experiments. They built an entire invisible architecture around your daily life designed to do one thing with surgical precision: make you spend money you didn't plan to spend, on things you didn't know you wanted, to impress people you don't even like. So let me ask you something. When was the last time you bought something truly because you decided to? Not because an algorithm showed it to you at the right moment, not because someone you follow online made you feel like you needed it, not because a limited time offer made your heart race just enough to override your logic. Because by the time this video ends, you're going to realize that for most of your life, it never was. Let's go back to the laboratory, not the one you're imagining. White coats, test tubes, harmless science. I'm talking about a different kind of lab, one funded not by governments or universities, but by the largest corporations on Earth, one where the subject being studied wasn't a virus, wasn't a chemical compound, wasn't a disease. The subject was you. In the 1990s, a field called neuromarketing was born, because for the first time in history, companies didn't have to guess what made you buy something. They could simply watch your brain. Using fMRI machines, the same technology hospitals use to detect tumors, corporations began scanning the brains of consumers while exposing them to products, advertisements, logos, and sounds. And what they found in those brain scans didn't just change marketing, it changed everything. They discovered that purchasing decisions are not made in the rational part of your brain, not in the prefrontal cortex, the part that calculates, reasons, and weighs consequences. No, buying decisions are made deep in the limbic system, the oldest, most primitive part of your brain, the part that doesn't think, the part that only feels. And the moment corporations understood that, they stopped trying to convince your mind. They started targeting your emotions instead, your fears, your insecurities, your longing to belong, your desperate, deeply human need to feel like enough, because that part of your brain has no logic, no defense, no ability to say, wait, do I actually need this? It only knows want. Here's where it gets surgical. Researchers discovered something called the dopamine loop. Dopamine, the chemical your brain releases when you experience pleasure, doesn't actually fire when you get something you want. That's the part nobody tells you. It fires when you anticipate getting it, the wanting, not the having, which means the most profitable moment for any corporation isn't when you complete a purchase. It's the 3 seconds before you do, that moment of hovering over the button, heart slightly elevated, brain flooded with dopamine, completely irrational, completely vulnerable. And they designed entire systems, entire billion-dollar digital architectures specifically to keep you living in that 3-second window as long as possible. Amazon's one-click purchase, Instagram's infinite scroll, the autoplay on Netflix, the slot machine mechanics inside every app on your phone. None of these features exist for your convenience. They exist to keep you inside the dopamine loop permanently. And while you're inside that loop, anxious, wanting, reaching, you are spending, you are clicking, you are converting, and somewhere in a server farm the size of a city, a number just went up. Not your bank balance, theirs. Now let's talk about something you felt your entire life, but probably never had words for. You're walking down a street, you see someone wearing a Louis Vuitton bag, or driving a Mercedes, or wearing a pair of Jordans that cost $300, and something happens inside you, something automatic, something immediate. You make a judgment about who they are, about their success, about their worth. And here's the uncomfortable truth. They made the same judgment about themselves when they bought it. That feeling, that automatic association between an object and a person's value, didn't happen by accident. It was manufactured, carefully, deliberately, over decades of psychological conditioning so deep that most people carry it to their graves without ever questioning where it came from. Here's how it started. In the early 20th century, luxury brands had a problem. Their products, the leather, the fabric, the craftsmanship, were genuinely superior. Quality was the selling point. Rich people bought expensive things because expensive things actually lasted longer, felt better, worked better. Then mass manufacturing arrived. And suddenly, a $30 bag could look almost identical to a $300 one. The quality gap was closing. The rational justification for luxury was disappearing. So luxury brands did something extraordinary. They stopped selling products entirely. They started selling identity. Louis Vuitton didn't just put a logo on a bag. They engineered a psychological signal, a symbol that communicated one message to everyone who saw it: I have arrived. Rolex didn't sell a watch. They sold the feeling of being the kind of person who wears a Rolex. Nike didn't sell shoes. They sold the belief that wearing them made you closer to greatness. And the most disturbing part, it worked on everyone, including people who couldn't afford it, especially people who couldn't afford it, because researchers discovered something that should fundamentally disturb you. The psychological need for status, the need to signal to the world that you matter, that you're successful, that you belong, is strongest in people who feel most economically insecure, not the wealthy. The wealthy don't need to signal status. They already have it. It's the middle class, the working class, the people stretching their budgets, taking out credit, buying things they cannot afford, because the alternative is feeling invisible in a society that measures human worth in price tags. Luxury brands didn't just discover this vulnerability, they built entire business models around it. The logo is deliberately large so others can see it. The shopping bag is designed to be carried, not hidden. The limited drops, the wait lists, the exclusive launches, none of it is about scarcity. It's about manufacturing a feeling of belonging to something most people can't access. And every time someone who can barely afford rent walks into a luxury store and hands over money they don't have, the trap worked exactly as designed. You weren't buying a bag, you were buying the feeling of being enough, and they knew that before you even walked through the door. Everything we've talked about so far, the neuroscience labs, the dopamine loops, the the identity engineering, all of it was built over decades, slowly, methodically. It took corporations the better part of a century to wire your brain the way they wanted it wired. Then Silicon Valley arrived, and they did in 10 years what took everyone else 100. Here's what most people don't know about the apps living on your phone right now. They were not designed by engineers. They were not designed by programmers. The features you use every single day, the pull to refresh, the infinite scroll, the notification badge, the like button, were designed by psychologists, behavioral scientists, people whose entire job was to study the weakest points of the human mind and build digital experiences that exploited them with maximum efficiency. This is not a theory. This is documented. Asa Raskin, the man who invented the infinite scroll, came forward publicly and admitted that his creation causes people to collectively waste 200,000 hours every single day. He said, and these are his words, "It's as if they took behavioral cocaine and sprinkled it on the interface." He built it in a weekend. It took him less time to rewire the attention of 1 billion people than it takes most people to redecorate a room. And the infinite scroll is just one feature on one app. Your phone contains dozens of these mechanisms, stacked on top of each other, each one designed to capture a different psychological vulnerability, each one optimized continuously by algorithms that know more about your breaking points than you do. Here's what the algorithm actually is, because most people imagine it as something neutral, a system that just shows you things you like. That's what they want you to believe. The algorithm is not neutral. The algorithm has one objective function, one goal. It was mathematically built to maximize above everything else time on platform, not your happiness, not your well-being, not your financial health, not your relationships, time on platform, because every second you spend inside their app is a second they can sell to an advertiser. You are not the customer, you are the product, and the algorithm's entire existence is dedicated to keeping the product engaged. And here is where the money trap closes completely, because an algorithm optimized purely for engagement will, without exception, learn that the most engaging content is content that makes you feel bad about yourself, inadequate, behind, like everyone else is succeeding while you're standing still. And what do people do when they feel inadequate? They spend. They buy the thing that promises to close the gap, the course that will fix their career, the supplement that will fix their body, the outfit that will fix their image, the gadget that will fix their productivity. The algorithm creates the wound, the advertiser sells the bandage, and you pay for both every single day, without ever realizing the wound was manufactured. So now you know about the laboratories, the brain scans, the dopamine loops, the identity engineering, the algorithms designed to make you feel inadequate, so you spend money closing a gap that was never real. You know the system. But here's the question that actually matters. What do you do with that knowledge? Because information alone changes nothing. You could finish this video, nod your head, feel briefly outraged, and then open Instagram, see something you didn't know you wanted 20 seconds ago, and buy it before the feeling even registers consciously. Knowing the trap exists has never been enough to escape it. So let's talk about what actually works. First, understand what the people who built this system do with their own lives, because this is the detail they never publicize. The executives at the largest social media companies in the world, the people who designed the infinite scroll, the dopamine loops, the engagement algorithms, do not let their own children use the products they built. Steve Jobs did not give his children iPads. The former vice president of Facebook's growth team said publicly that he feels guilt, deep, profound guilt, for what he helped build. Former Google engineers who designed notification systems have since dedicated their lives to reversing the psychological damage those systems caused. The architects of the trap do not live inside it. They built it for you. Second, understand that escaping this system does not require perfection. It does not require throwing your phone into a river or living off the grid. The goal is not zero consumption. The goal is conscious consumption. The difference between those two things is the difference between being a prisoner and being free. A prisoner doesn't choose when they eat. When they sleep, when they engage with the world, every input is controlled by someone else. A conscious consumer pauses, even for 3 seconds. That 3-second window, the exact window corporations have spent billions trying to collapse, is where your power lives. Before you buy, ask one question, not "Can I afford this?" Not "Do I need this?" Ask, who benefits from me wanting this right now? If the answer is a corporation that spent millions engineering this exact moment of desire, you have your answer. Third, and this is the most important thing this video will tell you, wealth is not built in the moment of purchase. Wealth is built in the moment of pause. Every person who has genuinely escaped the financial trap, not by earning more, by thinking differently, did it by learning to feel the pull of manufactured desire and choosing not to follow it. Not because they were disciplined, not because they were cold or joyless, but because they understood something most people never learn, the things that actually make a human life rich: connection, purpose, time, peace of mind. None of them are for sale. They never were. The system needs you to keep forgetting that. Don't. If this video changed something in the way you see the world, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Not because it helps this channel, because the more people who understand this system, the less power it has. They built this trap in the dark. The only thing that dismantles it is light. See you in the next one.